They're out there, everyday heroes, walking amongst us. You probably know them, friends of yours, family members, maybe your own brother, all hiding a secret, all hiding the fact that they have patchy beards and you never knew. Stay tuned as we show you examples of these everyday heroes. Hello, this is Berzinsky for Beardbrand Alliance. Are you one of them? That's right, guys. These particular gentlemen have been hiding something from you and hiding it from most of society, the fact that they have patchy beards. And actually, the converse is they've been hiding from the world that they have some great potential. Sure enough, the men I'm going to show you all thought that they had a patchy beard, or actually they do have patchy beards, and by giving it some time you can see how their beards have come in. Of course, you know, I was one of those guys. I would never give my beard more than 30 days. I would see what I thought were those patches and said, this is never going to turn into a real beard, and so I would shave it off. And of course, it wasn't until I gave it 60 days, it wasn't until I gave it 90 days that I saw that my patches would or had the potential to cover over. Of course, that's not true for every guy. Some guys have such sparse follicle placement on their face that no amount of time is going to deliver a full beard. What I'm going to show you are guys who have potential in their beards even with having some patches. And I want to show you some guys that actually have what I talked about before are definitive beard patterns that in the past had stopped them from growing a beard. And I want to show you that with a little time, even with those definitive patches, they were able to accomplish beardom. So here we go. Let's start with this guy, MORITZ. He's 32 years old, and you can see that he has, like a lot of guys, sparseness underneath his lower lip, flanking a small soul patch in the middle, and this had prevented him from actually embarking on a beard journey. You can also see that he has some patches low on the sides here. Those are pretty similar to mine, as well as some sparseness in general on the beard. So he would take a look at his beard and said, patchy beard, it's never going to come in. But by giving it some time, and in this case about 10 weeks, you can actually see that his beard filled in pretty nicely. Now, he still has those areas around or below his lower lip, flanking the soul patch in the middle. And as I said before, these are more beard patterns than patchy beard. And so this is a case, and there's a number of guys here who have a similar kind of follicle placement that, you know, it seems to be very typical for a lot of guys. But quite the contrast between what looks like a sparse beard, giving it 2.5 months, and wham, looks great with a beard, even with those beard patterns that he thought were preventing him from growing a beard. Show you another guy who's similar to that. We have Josh Lackman here, who is 30 years old. And you can see he has very similar patches below his lower lip. He has disconnect from his mustache to the beard itself, and you can see that there's some thinness on the sides of his cheeks. So what's going to happen to him when he grows a beard? Could you believe that? It's true. So these pictures were taken within several months of each other. When I asked for submissions for this, I wasn't looking for a passage of years, a passage of time, but really that you have some patches, you have some challenged areas on your face that when you give it some time, they grow into a beard. So I would say the majority of these are showing just a short passage of time, no more than in some cases 6 months. So in this case, the vellus hairs that appear to be very light in this area actually continued to come in a little bit. Not that they turned into real hairs, but there was enough hair there to give some coverage that he has below his lips. And in this case, he has enough beard material on his lower face, and especially in the front here, to turn into a pretty fantastic beard. If you're worried about areas on the side of your mustache here, where you have these marionette lines, the smile lines, and dimples in those areas sometimes. Having a fuller mustache, and that's what I do. I grow my mustache fuller that can actually cover over some of those areas on the side, and a lot of guys are able to do that. So good going, Josh. Looks good, and you wear that well. Here we have GIORGOS. I think it's George. And in his before picture, you can see that he has some general patchy areas, the same thing as a lot of these guys. Thinness on flanking the soil patch, some areas trailing down from a handlebar, when you think handlebar going down, and some thinness, some disconnect from the sideburns. So an overall patchy beard that he would never let go beyond this amount of hair. And you can see in his after that, sure enough, there is plenty of hair there. So you ask, how does this happen? How does this happen? And I think, you know, it's my particular beard. When you get enough hair and enough length on hair, those hairs tangle up together. They can actually kind of become a thicket, and they can actually, what appears to be thin when they're short, can actually come together and cover over some thinner areas. And in this case, having his mustache grow and those tails on his mustache grow a little more, we're able to cover up that area that seems to be thin on the side. So that's a general spotty beard, I think. None of those areas to me look particularly bald, with the exception of this and maybe that. But the thick coverage, and in conjunction with the thinner areas, when you average it together, and with some grooming, you can actually be able to wear a full beard. I'm going to show you some guys that actually fall into a category that many of you guys, so those previous ones were really beard pattern. What these guys are, now if you look at FRAZER here, who's 22 years old, so a younger guy, wearing a mustache, blonde beard, but you can see there he has some scars, he has some areas of general thinness throughout his beard, preventing him from growing a beard. And look at FRAZER at 22 by giving it some time. And in this case, over 3 months, closer to 4 months, getting a couple of inches on his beard. You can see that his mustache actually either doesn't grow, or he chooses to keep it short. And he actually still has some of those areas that were a little thinner on the side. But the other areas where he had the scar and where he had some thinness, sparseness, is able to be covered over by the adjoining hairs. So I'm saying this to encourage you guys to give the beard a chance. As I said before, it's not going to work for some guys. If you have, and I'm just going to throw out a number, if you have 10,000 hairs on your face where your average guy has 35,000, if you're just starting out with less hair, it's not as likely that you're going to be able to cover over those areas as the hair comes in. So these guys have, you know, a good 50% coverage or more, and the amount of hair that they have is sufficient, and especially in areas where they have a strong suit. And in an upcoming video, I'm going to talk about that. What is the strong suit of your hair suit on your face? What is the strongest area on your beard, and working with that? So in the case of these guys, they have enough hair potential that it does come in when they let their beards grow. I think this is probably one of the most remarkable ones, because you're looking at DRIES here in his before picture, and this is a patchy beard. No two ways about it. He has these beard patterns associated with the hair flanking his soul patch. He has general thinness on the side. You can see the sideburns look pretty good. He has some hair underneath here, but a spotty beard at this length for sure. Letting it grow. Look at him when he let that beard come in for 4 months. So encourage you guys, let it go. Guys talking to me like, when should I start trimming? And I'm like, just let it go. It's a good time to take some chances with your style, with limited amount of people potentially seeing you. So let your beards go. Let them grow. Let them see what you have. See what the potential is. And you know, I think in a lot of guys' cases, just like the ones I'm showing you here, the potential was there, but not realized because they wouldn't give it enough time. Here is a guy, and I'm showing this as an example. If you look at this guy, it's a good friend of mine. This is Russell, and he is a, I was going to say burlesque, but it's actually boylesque. He is a comedic dancer and a vaudevillian, and he was always concerned that he did not have enough hair on his chin and a little sparseness on the side of his mustache here. But what a mustache. You almost, who cares about a beard when you have a mustache that looks like this? But he gave it some time, and when he does, look at Russell after. This hair, there's enough hair there that it fills in. A lot of times when you look at hair in certain locations, especially on the rounded part of the chin, all of the hairs are growing kind of straight towards you when it's short. They're not falling over. Like on some hair on the side, it'll start growing in, going in a downward pattern or an upward pattern. I sense that a lot of guys, especially on the chin area, on the round part of the chin, the hairs are growing straight out. And so you're looking straight into that, especially if you have a lot of light on it, and that area can look thinner than what you really think it is. Here's a case where, you know, unrealized potential here by not letting that beard grow beyond this kind of stubble look that he had in the before. So I also think that a lot of guys have, let's call it beard dysmorphia. They think their beards are worse than they are, and in some cases they think their beards are better than they are. But I think for the most part that most guys are thinking that their beards look worse than what they really are. So we got to shake ourselves out of that. I don't think it's a therapy issue, but I think once you try it, once you give yourself a little more time in the beard department, you will find that that feeling of potential inadequacy that you might have related to your beard growth will go away. A couple more for you. We have a guy here who has, you can see some very strong areas. His strong suit obviously looks like a mustache. He has a lot of hair in the chin. Once again, no hair under the lip and thinner areas on the side. What is MIKLOS going to look like when he lets this go in? First off, it's going to change color. Yes, and texture, and it's going to fill in on this particular gentleman. So someone who has a beard that ends up looking like this and refused to grow it before because they thought it was patchy, you're denying the world the pleasure of looking at such a fabulous beard. So at least give it a chance. And I'm going to end with this one today. This is Ken Hughes, and he is probably a peer of mine, slightly older than me at 61. And you can see in his before beard, it looks very familiar to me. He obviously had a goatee, Van Dyke here, so the hair's a little more coverage on the front, but you can see on the side here, thin areas, a potential bald area, and uneven coverage. And when he let it come in, transformed. Is it a super thick beard? No, but it evens out with a little time. So I hope this encourages you guys. You can see there's a variety of ages here from guys in their early 20s up into their 60s. And so it's never too early. It is never too late to give that beard a chance, to give that beard 30 days. And so you can actually proudly walk around saying, I've got something to hide. And you might not ever see it. Till we meet again.
Whoever knew sweat could smell so good? I did, because I've been using Beardbrand's new deodorant. Grab it at beardbrand.com.